Welcome to the Great Awakening Ministry. I am Minister and Yogini Joanne Lee. And on this week's show, back again, we have medium Carole Obley. Carole is the author of Embracing the Ties That Bind, I Am Still With You, Soul-to-Soul Connections, and Wisdom from the Spirit World. She has communicated with souls who have crossed into spirit through thousands of private and group sessions. She has earned a reputation in her geographical area as the real deal amongst psychic mediums. She travels nationally to speak and teach workshops, as well as maintaining a practice in mediumship based near Pittsburgh, PA. Her new book, The Art of Sensing, explains how the global transformation that humanity is now transversing relates to the journey of the individual soul. This profound yet accessible guide instructs readers to navigate uncertain times and circumstances by trusting in one's sixth sense. In this week's Part 2 show, Carole Obley discusses how to access your Akashic Records for spiritual growth and who the overseers are of the records. Carole also guides us through a beautiful meditation to help us access the Akashic Records.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Carole, welcome back again to the Great Awakening show.
Thank you, Joanne. Wonderful to be here.
Yeah. And this is part 2 of our little shows. This one is about accessing your Akashic Records, which is so important. So, Carole, can you give us a brief overview of part 1? What are the Akashic Records?
Well, we talked in part 1 about these energetic files. And by the way, in the books that I've written, particularly Wisdom from the Spirit World, I refer to them as files. Files and records are the same thing, so it really doesn't matter. And they are energetically, they are stored in our subconscious. And that's where we go, as we're going to do in part 2 here, to access these. So what are they? We talked about they are every thought and feeling and word that the soul has emitted during all lifetimes. And that would be from the beginning of time. Now, none of us know when that is. So who knows when that is? But if you think of a giant tape recorder, that's what the files are. And they're always running. They're always imprinting upon the ethers. In fact, the word akasha is from the Sanskrit, and it means ethers. So as we emanate, because, of course, we are energy. Mm. And so our thoughts, particularly, are energy, and those imprint upon the ethers, and then they stay with us throughout time, and even in between lifetimes. So you can access any point. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, particularly if there's resistance on the part of the person to access something really traumatic.
Yes, of course.
Now, we also talked about what's the value of doing this. So it's for healing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I do in my practice of mediumship is Akashic record readings using the astrology chart of the individual. The chart is simply a map. For me, it's simply a tool. I developed long ago this ability to tune into an individual, and I never asked for that. It just started coming. So if you are tuned in, and you don't have to be a medium to do this, But if you are tuned in, uh, to your subconscious, and by the way, you're not going into a state when we do our meditation today, you won't be out of control. You're not going into a state that that you're unconscious.
Mm.
You're
Or,
simply
or hypnotized,
sort of
anything like that.
transcending.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, you're simply transcending the rational mind to get to the subconscious. And so we talked about um, multiple lifetimes as well, perhaps being spent on one quality,
Yes.
developing one quality, for example, compassion,
Mm,
forgiveness, patience. These would all be examples of what we can spend multiple lifetimes developing, because the physical world here, the 3D world, offers the opportunity that the spirit world does not, the opportunity in duality,
mm,
and also having a body.
mm.
That's something in the spirit world. Obviously, we have thoughts that can make up a spirit body, and that's how that happens. But this is really the only place where we have this duality, and we have the opportunity once again to evolve.
Yes.
And so the whole purpose of this, really, of accessing these records, is evolution of the soul,
Spiritual growth. Yes, definitely.
spiritual growth, and moving along the pathway, releasing anything that is obscuring or dimming the light of the soul.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And also, we said last week, we said as well in the last show, we can it like fasten up that evolutionary process, and we can go into not only into our past, but we can look at the future, into the future lives, and we can take that energy, from the Akashic records, and we can sort of like bring that in to fasten up our goals and our spiritual evolution, instead of waiting many, many years, to get there. So that is a fast course of doing that as well.
The other important point of this is just as you said, we don't have to we can accelerate our pathway with understanding by accessing the Akashic, the roots of a particular pattern that we've found very troubling in our life. Something to do with relationships with other people who are in our life currently, who we find perhaps it's very challenging in the relationship. We find that it's problematic. And there's sort of this awareness I've discovered in my own life, and then also dealing with helping clients, that there's sort of this knowing, this inner knowing, when we face a circumstance or situation again, or a relationship again. And it can kind of feel vaguely familiar to us. Like, I feel like, I've done this before.
Mm.
So that feeling of deja vu is also a good indication that this is a karmic circumstance
Yeah.
that you're confronting.
And you have to live out that karmic lesson, you have to live through it, you have to work through it, you have to do the work for it, to go through that, so that it doesn't come up, again in some crazy drama later on, in this life, or the next life. It's so important to work through that, isn't it, and release it.
It is, because that contributes and helps our spiritual evolution, so
Yeah.
that we're not. I see so many people who are spinning their wheels, so to speak, and it's sort of like being stuck in mud. Our vehicle gets in mud or deep, a deep ravine or whatever. I can't get out of here, and you keep accelerating, you keep pressing on the gas, and maybe trying backing up and going forward. And we're still in that space. So the point and the value of even doing this is really not for entertainment because as I tell people, most of us have not been like Cleopatra or, King Lear or whoever. We've been ordinary people, or even in most cases, I mean, just peasants, just ordinary citizens of whatever country. And we have created certain situations.
Mm.
So now it's also important to note, and I can't recall if we brought this up in part one, but it's not just bad things that we can access or, harmful or negative things in the Akashic. We can also look at the roots of where a particular skill came from, um, or, a predisposition to something. Perhaps we're very, very adept at, for example, giving compassion. We feel empathy for all living beings.
Yeah.
And so we can also access the Akashic to look back and see what other lessons have I had in compassion, in
Mm.
extending compassion.
Mm.
And so because the soul uh, continually gathers experience. It doesn't lose anything.
Yes.
Nothing is ever lost from the consciousness of the soul. Those are going to be stored. Those good things are also going to be stored in the Akashic.
And also, I really feel it's such a good tool to help us look back or look in the Akashic Records. It helps us with our soul purpose, with our divine mission in this life. Sometimes we get stuck. What am I here for? What's my mission? What's my soul purpose? And it can really, really help us, fine tune that one thing where we need to work on to, and bring us into our soul purpose to be of service to humanity. I really feel that. Mm.
Yeah, thank you. That's really important because once we get the debris, if we're talking about the negative patterns, for example, once we get the debris out of our way
Mm.
and sort of like turn the windshield wipers on and get, for clarity, then, as you were saying, we can be much more effective in giving service, which is the primary purpose of the soul, along with emanating spirit, all of the spiritual qualities, the positive ones. So once we heal ourselves, then we can be of service and help others, whatever form that might take.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, in the metaphysical field or particularly, what I'm doing of being a medium. It can be in medical, it can be in law, it can be in, teaching. Anything that you're emanating your innate abilities towards
Mm.
is the service. Now that also comes from prior lifetimes
Yes.
when we have, the skills like that haven't just come out of nowhere.
Mm. Mm.
Usually there's prior experience with them. For example, in my case, I have actually gone into my records and seen that I have done mediumship, maybe not so much as I'm doing it today, in connection with deceased loved ones and so forth, but I certainly was some type of a seer in
Mm.
prior lifetimes, one of those lifetimes being in Egypt.
Mm.
Um, so, we can go back in and see, oh, okay, this is what I did then. Those talents don't evaporate.
Yes.
They are still there with us.
Yes. And they accumulate. They accumulate and accumulate, and I believe, and bring you to the present life where you express that fully. You express it fully, and it's your divine mission. I think over so many lives, you're being prepared. You're being prepared for your soul, for your divine mission, and then you come to the lifetime where you are free to release it and express it and be of service to humanity in that way. Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it?
It's interesting. I'll say this very quickly. A long time ago, my spirit guides or spirit team said to me, "You have prepared for this current lifetime for many lifetimes."
Yes.
I said, "Really?" And they said, "Yes." So it's very interesting. I really resonate with what you said there.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, this is for everybody. You,
Mm,
you have continually evolved. Even when you feel like, gee, there's so many people that come to me and they go, what's my purpose? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'll say, what are you drawn to? What makes your heart sing? What do you feel joy in doing? So that is definitely a signpost
yes.
to how you need to express.
That's right. It's what your passion is. Follow your passion. You will that's your soul guide. Follow your passion. And through that, you will be guided, yeah, to be of service. That's so beautiful. And Carole, this is amazing, this question. Um, who are the overseers of the records?
Well, there are overseers. I call them the guardians of the records. And it's not that there's so much, standing there with being armed or something that somebody's going to steal them, but they're there for guidance.
Mm,
And they're there also when we die, when we leave the physical realm,
yes.
we see the records in seconds.
Yeah, it's a review, the life review.
The life review, which I'm sure many of your listeners have probably read about or heard about. And so, what do they review? What is the soul reviewing? Well, the plethora of lifetimes. The guardians help with that.
Mm,
And so they can sort of pull up the film, so to speak, kind of helping and the soul to access that and to understand it and to then gain perspective on it. So they are very wise
wow.
souls
Mm,
who I believe really don't have to come back here
mm,
into the physical realm. And their service is offering that through the review
mm,
of the soul's records.
right. And that review, it's not God or the overseers who judge us. We are doing it ourselves. We are looking at our records
Correct.
and we are seeing where we have given joy or where we have given suffering or harm in every thought, feeling, word, and action that we gave in the life.
That's correct.
And as we said remember what we said last time, it's really important to know because when you give a thought, feeling, word, or action that is harmful, it's not just hurting that person. That person might go out and do the same to the next person. And then that person goes out and does the same to the next person. It's like a ripple effect. So you just haven't hurt one person. Your action, your thought, your feeling, word, it affects many. That's why it's so important to be masterful and make every thought, feeling, word, and action more sacred, more righteous.
Yes. And interestingly, I actually had this sort of, I don't know that I want to call it a vision, but a very deep insight just last evening. And I was lying in bed and I was shown sort of, or I sort of experienced that imprint that each of us make on the ethers. And then this thing called the ripple effect and how that goes out much like, when we throw a pebble in a pond and you see those concentric circles and how that goes out and just keeps going.
Yeah.
That water, has been changed because of our intervention.
Yes.
And it was sort of like I had this vicarious experience of that happening and how it happens. And I believe it's because, so that I could explain this to people today. So, you know, a long time ago, I believe it was Emerson who said, no man is an island. And so we are not islands off by ourselves. Just as you were saying, everything that we do affects the greater consciousness. So if we have the collective consciousness of all souls, animals included,
Yes.
and nature too,
Mm.
we are contributing to that moment by moment.
Yes. So it's a responsibility. Jesus said, what you give out, you receive, so shall you receive. It's a responsibility to make, our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions more righteous. So they don't harm others, and then they don't come back to harm us as cause and effect karma, isn't it?
Exactly.
Mm.
Now, I want to mention too, healing karma through grace. And grace is just by being who we are as spirit, extensions of that oneness. That grace can actually help and heal karma. And I mean, sort of like where we've done somebody wrong or we've committed some transgression. The grace of spirit can also heal us in that way. And
Yeah.
it can be done also through the release of that to that higher source.
Yeah.
See, I'm releasing this, and then there's a change. There has to be a change in our consciousness.
Yes. Wow, that's profound. It's sort of like realizing the harm that you did, and asking for the grace. I'm sorry that I did it. It's the recognition of the harm, that you ask for that
Yes.
grace and that forgiveness, that stops the karma from coming back, because you've released that, then because you understand what you did. So many people just go around and they just do it, and they don't have any you know they don't understand what they've done, and they don't have any remorse for that as well. So wow, that grace is beautiful.
Exactly. And so becoming aware
Mm.
of this record uh, serves many, many purposes. I know that it's sort of a difficult concept for some people to absorb, to understand. But if you truly know that you're an eternal being who will never die, and I don't mean the body, I mean the soul.
Yeah.
We know the body's going to um, go away.
Mm.
Everything on the physical plane is temporary. Everything here is temporary. What is permanent, what is eternal, is the divine consciousness. And that's how the records can even be created in the first place,
Mm.
is because of the eternity of consciousness.
Yeah. Wow, absolutely beautiful. And um Carole, how do we access the records?
Well, and if we want to start on the meditation, we can do that. And then maybe have a little um, chat afterwards about, what came up, how to process this, how to really process it. So the first thing that people want to do is the Akashic is huge.
Mm.
So it's kind of like if you go into a giant store, and here in the US, of course, we have Walmart, and there's everything imaginable in Walmart. And it's kind of like if you go in there without an intent, you go, well, gee, I don't know what I came in here to buy. You're just going to wander around the aisles and go, oh, I can't remember, or, pick up a lot of information that's not going to be particularly useful at this time anyway. So what you want to do first is to write a question. And Make it about yourself. Don't make it about anyone else. Um, and make the question very, very specific.
Mm-hmm.
The more specific you are, the more specific the insight will be. So you want to have paper with you before you do this exercise, and you want to write down, for example, um, where did I have problematic or painful relationships? Perhaps there's an issue of trust that we discover when we visit the records. Maybe we have betrayed somebody. These are things, and this requires gut honesty. And no one's going to see this but you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have your paper there and be brutally honest with, what is the burning question or a pattern that keeps coming up over and over in my life that I really would love to be rid of.
Yes.
So you're going to write that down and you're going to make it very, very specific. And then you're definitely going to be in a place where you're not going to be disturbed. Turn off the phone, turn off the TV, and go into a very quiet environment. You can light a candle there if you want to. And the very first thing that we do, and I'll just start with leading this if we can, is to close our eyes. And we're going to begin by putting all of our attention on our breath. And what that means is to follow the breath as it comes into the body. And then also as it exits on the exhalation. And if thoughts come up, which they will, it's okay. You're not going to get rid of thoughts when we're doing meditation. You simply notice them, become the observer of them. Pull back from the thought, see it passing by you like a cloud. And when thoughts come up, simply, it's okay, just detach from them. Return your awareness to your breath. Again, following that breath as it comes into the body and then as it exits. And importantly now, go to that sacred place within, that still point, the place that is eternal, that cannot be disturbed by anything in the outside world, the place that cannot be disturbed by your own thoughts. And we're going to now see in front of us a sparkling iridescent column of white light. This is the light that connects you to the source of all being. And now step gently into that column of white light. Feel it surrounding you, encompassing you, embracing you. Feel the peace in this divine light. Feel the serenity. And importantly, let go and trust. And now feel yourself drifting higher and higher, lighter and freer in this column of white light. Higher and higher, lighter and freer in the column of white light. And now gently touch down in a beautiful place, a place filled with the beauty and serenity of nature, tall trees, many flowers, and most of all, drink in that serenity and know that this is the natural state of your soul. And now as you look into the distance, you notice a very large stone building. This is made of marble. It shimmers in the sunlight and it calls to you, it beckons to you to begin to walk towards this building. And we can also call it a library. And there are 7 steps leading to the doorway of this massive building. Each one of those steps from 1 to 7 is a level of your divine consciousness. The first being your physical awareness, your connection to the earth. The second, your emotions, your creativity. And also your sense of internal, authentic power. The third step, how you emanate like the sun, how you shine, your skills, your ability, your talents to the outside world, your personal power in a balanced, harmonious way. And the fourth step, how you give love and how you receive love. And at this point, allow your heart to gently open and soften. And the fifth step, your expression through your voice, your talents, your creativity, and importantly, your will. And merging your personal will with the divine will. And then the sixth step, your ability to see beyond your 5 physical senses, to know higher truth, to know the one truth, the unity of the divine. This is your inner knowing, your inner viewing screen. And then finally, the seventh step, your ultimate connection as a divine being with the totality of all. And now, as you stand before these two double doors of this massive library, suddenly the doors swing open and you are greeted by a wise being. You see this being's aura emanating much light, white, violet, purple. This light streams from around this wise being. This is your guide, the keeper of your file. And this guide greets you with the warmest embrace, graciousness, and unconditional love. And the guide now takes you by the hand and leads you into this library, which is massive. As you look up, you see that the ceiling is infinite. It seems to go on forever. The expansiveness within this building is beyond our conception. It seems to be infinite and endless. And there is a radiance that comes from each one of the books that you now become aware of on the shelves of this library. Each one unique, each one equally important. And there are rows upon rows of books in this library. And as you continue to walk with the guide communicates with you telepathically that you are being led to your book, your Akashic record. And filled with anticipation, you continue to walk until your guide stops and points to a book that is on the shelf. And there on the spine of the book, you see your name. And the guide assists you in taking this book down from the shelf and ushers you into a very quiet area where you can relax in the library. And you can study your record in relation to the question that you have written. So in this comfortable space now, open your book and begin to see and feel, importantly, sense what is being revealed to you, what is being shown. And if you do not see anything, any images, it's perfectly fine. Use your sense of clairsentience to feel. And again, with your question, going to the very beginnings or the roots of where the challenge, the difficulty, or the skill, the abilities, their origin. Please do not diminish the experience by judging it or feeling as if you are making it up. Simply experience as the pages come alive in your book of life, your Akashic file. Experience what is being revealed. Perhaps there is more than one experience that comes up for you during this journey. And if there is, make note of that as well. Remember that the soul has many experiences with one theme or one divine quality. And allow that to just arise organically, naturally in your consciousness. You may also view and sense these experiences by simply becoming the observer without judgment, without any guilt, and simply experience and observe and be the witness to what is being revealed here. And so our time has come to a close, and trust that what has needed to be revealed to you at this time has been revealed. Open your heart to trust that the information that your soul needs at this very moment is now in your conscious mind, and that you will remember this. And so let's close our book and say a small prayer of gratitude. And if your question was one requiring how to heal something that's been particularly challenging for you, let's ask that that healing comes in a gentle manner, in a way that we will be able to understand it and engage in any forgiveness that needs to take place. And our guide now rejoins us and says, "You are dearly loved. There is no need to judge yourself. There is no need to feel that you have failed or that you are not enough, because you are always enough." And we will retain this knowledge as this guide now reaches out and touches us right on our forehead, in that energy center there called the third eye, so that this awakening is permanent and stays with us as we prepare to return, bringing all of this self-knowledge back with us. With our guide's help, we return our book to the shelf. And our guide escorts us to the door and tells us that this knowledge will remain with us, and that to always remember that our true nature is unconditional love, and that each of us is valued by Spirit for exactly who we are. And let's descend those steps. Come back to that beautiful, sparkling column of white light. And again, feel it surrounding you, enveloping you, encompassing you. Feel your whole being soaking in that light. And now we're going to gently return through that column of white light, return to our body, become aware of your body. Feel your feet and legs. Move your hands. And once again, focus on your breath. This time, allowing your breath to ground you. And when you are ready, open your eyes. And now, with your journal or your paper in front of you, write down some of the information and the impressions that you had during the meditation. And this can be an extended time that you do this. And I would also suggest to allow the energy from this meditation to sit with you for a while. And particularly pay attention to any intuition that comes through, any insights that come to you, maybe out of the blue, just something you're hit with. And also, importantly, dreams. What might come up for you when you're dreaming? And some people like to keep a dream journal. Others can remember. So whatever your particular personal pathway is, pay attention to what is being liberated now from your own subconscious.
Wow. And in meditation as well, we can bring that, you know, that feeling back to us, can't we? When we're in that beautiful place of meditation too.
Yeah, now that was sort of a consolidated version because we are time limited here.
Yes.
Uh, and if people want to, if the audience wants to do this on their own and take more time, they can have your replay. Um, and then once you do one question, you can always go back at another time and write another one. I do recommend, however, that you don't try to do too much
Mm, mm,
in the beginning because when we remove something, from our consciousness, let's say if we're dealing more like, I want to get rid of this pattern,
mm.
there's a void there that really needs to be filled. And there's an adjustment that takes place. And it's sort of like, going to an unfamiliar place where immediately we can't get our bearings. We have to become comfortable in that new space. And this is a transition. One of the qualities of transition in my latest book, The Art of Sensing, I have a whole chapter on transition. It's called The Bridge. So this is a bridge of consciousness. We're moving from this old space. We step on to the bridge through our intent to heal it. And then we come into this new space on the other side of the bridge.
Wow.
So that's what healing through the Akashic can help you with,
Mm.
is to move into a new space.
And we can, the answers that we've asked, maybe we don't see them or feel them or have them when we're in that Akashic meditation, but then they come after, in a moment of clarity, when we're walking through the woods or when we're in our own meditation or when we're having quiet contemplation, it will come in some form. Our angels and spirit guides will help us and bring that to the surface.
Exactly. I believe that we are really never given an overload. Now, this is why I said to listeners, don't try to do, 10 things you want to change all at the same time. Start slowly, allow yourself, because the changes have to be integrated. And spirit will, and your spirit team, those souls who have agreed to help you, are aware of what you're doing and they're there to help you. And so this is what you were saying, Joanne. It is really important. You might be on a hike, you might be, who knows, in the grocery store or on a walk or whatever, and you get this lightning. I know this has happened to me many times, and it almost sounds like it's coming from outside of yourself, the voice or the insight. That's your higher consciousness. And so, and you might want to write those down too, to keep a little spiritual journal.
Ah,
When I took my training years and years ago at Delphi, we had to write down everything that we did, because when things are running around in our head, they can be sort of nebulous. If you bring them down and write them, you can gain more clarity.
yes.
Plus, you can go back and look at the growth that you've had. You can access that again because you've made a record of it.
Beautiful. Wow. Carole, that was so wonderful being taken through. And I just felt and I just saw with my with the inner spiritual eye, everything. And I was feeling it. See, that's what it is, isn't it? It's using all of our senses for that guided meditation, feeling the stone, on your feet, smelling when you're in the beautiful garden, feeling, seeing with your inner eye, all of it to make it real, because it is real. We're into the subconscious here, and it is real, and
It is very real.
mm,
People think, the imaginative faculties, believe it or not, the imaginative faculties, meaning, you know, I invent something, I write a story, a fantasy story, or whatever. Those are the very same faculties that mediumship comes through. It's from our right brain.
that's
And
right.
this is why it's so important, why I really advise people not to judge what you're receiving, because judgment is always coming from the rational mind. And so many people will, the most common thing that occurs with people during these types of meditations is, I feel like I'm making that up. So even if you are, again, there's a reason why you're making that up instead of this. So there's a theme in there. And I really advise people, again, with your writing, you can look back over it and see what are the themes that pop out here to me. And, how have they repeated? And then correlate that also to your current lifetime. Let's say that, I have an anger issue. I'm always, being angry with people or just in general. You can actually look back, and if you do the meditation and see what were the roots of that. Usually there's something that occurred to us. We felt betrayed. We felt a loss of our personal power. We felt out of control. And that brings up frustration, which then produces anger.
Yes. Wow. It's all healing, and it's always evolution. We never stop. We never stop healing. We never stop evolving, do we? It's just
We
continue.
don't. And that's why I often tell people, when we die, we don't sit on the clouds and play harps with angels. We're over there continuing to evolve,
Oh,
because with death in the spirit world comes the awareness that we were not our physical body, we were not our thoughts, we were not our rational mind, that we are spirit. That's our true identity.
yes.
And so this is one tool. Accessing the Akashic files is one tool in the toolbox of becoming more and more aware of your authentic, true soul self.
Yes. And it's absolutely beautiful. It truly is. And I think the more you can, relax into it and just be open to it all, as you said, then it's so much easier, and to see, to feel, to receive what you're asking for.
Yeah, and as I said, the important thing here is to really be gut honest with yourself. I mean, all spiritual work requires honesty. And, again, this is private. This is for you.
That's
You
right.
don't have to go out and announce to the world, that, what you're doing.
Yeah.
But people will notice eventually. That might be a short time, it might be a longer time. But I guarantee you, people will say, I don't know what it is, but you've changed. And it's a positive change.
Yes.
Or, if you were going in there and you were looking at where, like in my case, where did my skills as a medium really originate? And so once we gain a sense of that, I believe we become even more self-assured about our talents and our abilities.
Yes, exactly. And it's really amazing, because I've noticed recently with things that have been happening in my life. There's been some traumatic things, but it's almost like I ask the questions and I go into meditation and I get the answer so much. It's instantaneous now. And I'm trusting in that receiving of that voice within, because it's given me the answers. Like before I would meditate for longer and it wouldn't come and everything. But the more I trust in the grace, the easier the answers come. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's important to let go.
Yeah.
There's that well-worn expression, let go and let God.
Yeah. Surrender.
So that's why I named the middle section of The Art of Sensing Surrender. That's the name of that section. Surrender, meaning not to become vulnerable, not to become weak, not to give up, but letting go of our need to be right, our need to know, and allowing spirit to lead the way.
Yeah, letting go of that ego personality and letting the grace, and the divine spirit bring us to our higher self, where all of the divine intelligence is. We can tap into that. That's the power that we have, to be able to tap into that and get the answers we seek.
Yes.
Wow. Honestly, Carole, that was absolutely amazing. It was so wonderful. And I thank you so much for taking us through that guided meditation. It was just profound. And it was
Thank you.
yeah. It was so lovely. So I think a lot of people will really rewind this back and use it for accessing their Akashic records. And we can get all of your amazing books on soul visions as well. Yeah.
They're Amazon, Kindle, both Amazon.uk, Amazon in the US, and my publisher collectiveinc.com.
Wonderful. Wow, Carole, that was truly, truly lovely. It really touched me, and I just got a lot from that, and it was just wonderful. So thank you again for guiding us, to access our Akashic records, and thank you for being on the Great Awakening show.
Thank you.